The third episode of The Mandalorian felt like a conclusion to the first arc of the series, introducing the child and the Mando's growing relationship with it. Chapter 4, entitled Sanctuary, felt like a transition into whatever will come next, but I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It was still very entertaining, holding on tight to that Western feel. Even at the very first scene, things are a little different from what we're used to because we get the first significant scene that doesn't involve the Mando at all. The first was the entire Bounty Hunters Guild receiving the alerts about the child being on the move again, which was brief. But here we get a full look at the lives of people we've never met before on a peaceful farming planet until they are attacked by Klatooinian raiders. It's only after the titles that we return to the Mando and Baby Yoda on the Razor Crest. The baby is being delightfully troublesome, pressing buttons and switches on the ship just for fun. It's adorable. I would still like to have a scene where the baby is just wreaking havoc on the ship with the Force, levitating all of the Mando's blasters, or something that no parent should ever have to deal with, but still, watching the Mando's annoyance here is already fun. But it's sweet to see how he treats the baby, gently picking it up and holding it. Previously, he more coldly grabbed it by the cloak and just plopped it back into its crib thing. Now he cares a lot more. So they need to lie low for a while on an out-of-the-way planet, and of course, they just happen to choose Sorgan, the same farming planet we were just introduced to with the Raiders. Call it the will of the Force. It sounds like a good choice, but then he just strolls into town wearing his full armor and with the child out in the open. He could not have been more conspicuous. The armor I get, it's part of his culture, I'm sure this is the way or something, but hide the baby, please. Put a fake mustache on him or something, anything. They enter the local bar and have a quick run-in with a Lothcat, which was awesome, but the Mando also sees the woman we know to be Cara Dune keeping an eye on them. I like that his armor might be better and stronger and everything, but like the armorer said, it will draw many eyes. That's the price of his upgrade. So he thinks Cara is part of the guild and goes to track her down. But she also thinks he's part of the guild after her. So they have a brief scuffle, share their stories, and agree to part ways. Cara must be hiding from something. If she's expecting bounty hunters to be after her, she must have upset somebody. Maybe it's for desertion since she left the New Republic after the Empire was gone and she felt like she lost her purpose. But I don't see them using bounty hunters. Maybe we'll find out a little more about her past in future episodes. The Mando prepares to leave and find another planet, but the villagers who were raided before approach him and offer credits and a remote place to stay in exchange for protection. He agrees and they pick up Cara to help. As they settle in, we learn more about the Mando and the rules surrounding his helmet. Yes, he takes it off to eat, he just doesn't take it off in public. The penalty for removing it in public is that he can just never put it back on again. So taking it off would be to accept a peaceful life. It's like the sheriff hanging up his hat, but he's not ready to do that. He says he was happy that the Mandalorians took him in, that his parents were killed, and the Mandalorians took care of him. So I think that's another piece of evidence that he is not a natural-born Mandalorian, but he was accepted into the way of life anyway. It means a lot to him to prove himself worthy of that way of life. Cara and the Mando head off into the woods to find the raiders, but come across AT-ST tracks and decide the job is too much for them to handle. At first, they just announce that they're leaving the village, but the Mando suggests they instead train the villagers to stand up for themselves. This is yet another Western trope, but it's also a plot mirrored in the Clone Wars episode Bounty Hunters, where Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and a handful of bounty hunters teach a group of farmers to fight against raiding pirates. Maybe the Mando saw some old history hollows and was like, hey, wait a minute, we can make this work. I saw it in a movie once. So we get a classic training montage of the villagers learning to fight, building barricades, and getting better at shooting blasters. Cara suggests they build a trap to disable the AT-ST rather than fight it with weapons, and I wonder if she was on Endor. She does mention it, and I love the idea that she got her inspiration from the Ewoks. When the defenses are ready, she and the Mando head to the Raiders' camp to provoke an attack. That's a fun little fight, and it's cool seeing them work together, learning to trust each other with their lives. The provocation works, and the AT-ST activates, but it's filmed like it's a monster waking up in the darkness, which was a very nice touch. It chases them back to the village, and the battle begins. Everything with the walker was filmed very suspensefully. Our heroes have a clear goal in luring it into the trap, and we see it inching closer and closer without fully taking the bait. It finally falls into the pit thanks to some of that trust and teamwork between the Mando and Cara, and after its destruction, the Raiders retreat. Weeks later, the Mando and Cara are still living with the villagers and peace has returned, but the Mando is growing restless and wants to leave Baby Yoda there while he goes off to follow the way, I guess. He's had a taste of peace, he has this offer to stay and take off his helmet and just live, but he rejects it. He's not ready. There's more out there for him to do, and I would guess he still wants to prove himself as a true Mandalorian. But even if he wanted to stay, a bounty hunter forces his hand. The child is found by the guild, but Cara stops the hunter. Again, that was some really solid direction. In my head, I know there's no way they're gonna kill that baby, but just having him put in the crosshairs at all sets off this knee-jerk reaction of terror. And so, to protect the child, the Mandalorian has to leave with him. They ride off back to their ship, parting ways with the villagers, Cara, and their sanctuary. I'm still so impressed with the pacing of this show. The last 3 episodes felt like a full arc from the Clone Wars. In the first 10 minutes of this episode, I was like, oh cool, we'll be here for 3 episodes now, but nope. They got through everything they needed to, and it didn't feel rushed, and there were still these nice, personal moments where we got to breathe. Despite the Raiders and the big battle, I still got the sense that the Mando and the baby finally got to take a breather before heading off on their next big adventure. So hats off to Bryce Dallas Howard. I do wonder if the next 3 episodes will be another kind of arc. They will once again be directed by Dave Filoni, Rick Famuyiwa, and Deborah Chow in that order. And then the final episode will be directed by Taika Waititi, probably to tie up the entire first season and hopefully leave hints for the second. The biggest bummer for the episode was the fact that the Mando and Cara part ways at the end. I'm positive she will be back, but I want her to have a more significant role in this story. She's got such a cool backstory, and she's just as much of a badass as I thought she'd be. And come on, you're best friends now, stick together, help each other. I like the show a lot, but there's this weird feeling that we've got this incredible cast of supporting actors, and they just briefly pop in and out. Everything feels so separated. That said, and I hope this is what we're building towards, but if we wind up having Cara Dune, Greef Karga, and IG-11 all fighting together on screen in the season finale, that will be very satisfying. It's just a testament to how much I enjoy all these characters that I want more time with them. Next week's chapter has the short description of the Mandalorian helps a rookie bounty hunter who is in over his head. I'm guessing the Mando is going to continue staying on the run with the baby, trying to keep him out of harm's way, but he's gone against the guild, so he's lost his main source of income. He's going to have to take odd jobs here and there to stay one step ahead of the rest of the bounty hunters who are still tracking the child. I really like that idea that another bounty hunter could show up at any time. I've been comparing the second season of Star Wars Resistance to Battlestar Galactica a lot, but now I'm going to compare it to The Mandalorian as well. Battlestar does a great job at making you believe danger is around every corner. The Cylons could appear at any time, and they usually do when things are at their worst. I'd love to see a bounty hunter or two randomly pop up to attack the Mando, always keeping him on his toes. Or maybe this new hunter who is in over his head will work alongside the Mando like Cara did. They'll build some trust, but when the younger hunter realizes the Mando is protecting a very valuable asset, they'll betray him. I'm also wondering what could pull the Mando back into the thick of the fighting. He's on the run now, but eventually he's gonna have to make a stand. I bet his Mandalorian friends that helped him save Baby Yoda in Chapter 3 will fall under attack. The bounty hunters and the Empire are probably just as mad at them as they are at the Mando, so they all might be on the run as well. If they're caught and threatened, it only seems right that the Mando would want to balance the scales and save their lives. After all, my theory is that the Mandalorian saved his life from that super battle droid and took him in. I think he's going to get a chance to return the favor. But to close out our discussion of Chapter 4, I thought this was yet another really good episode. Like I said, I view it as a transition between what felt like a 3-episode arc into what I assume will be another 3-episode arc. I think the advantage of that structure means we got what felt like a full story. The downside is that there weren't any huge bombshells or cliffhangers, and that's fine. The show has probably sufficiently hooked us all at this point, and again, I'm loving the pacing. I get the sense that Favreau had a full story to tell in 8 episodes, and he wrote it very efficiently. This series is the first of its kind for Star Wars, so I think we're going to get a very satisfying end to the season, as if it could be the end of the story, because nobody knew there would be a Season 2 when they started working on it. We already know Season 2 is filming, and the success of the show probably means there will be even more. I hope future seasons keep up this level of storytelling efficiency. But that's all I have to say about Sanctuary. Let me know what you thought of the episode in the comments. Molly and I will be back to talk about this episode later today, and we're also going to be on the Resistance broadcast soon to discuss it with them, and I'll put a link to their podcast in the description. And finally, if you want to listen to our audio commentaries for these episodes, they are available to our patrons, so you can check that out. The first 3 episodes are available now, and we'll get up the 4th as soon as we can. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.